Good morning, everyone. I was asked to do a tutorial to show all of you how to use the COI calculator within your online account. I'm going to start here, and you will see right here if we click on the members login. You fill in all of your information if you have an online account, and you will click log in. Now that will bring you into your members area. Now if we click on this inbreeding analysis, at this moment we do not have the herd book finished, so the only animal that you're going to be able to click into here and see is going to be an animal that you own. You're going to type in the registered number of the animal, and it's going to pull up, and you can see this drop down menu has the animal I'm looking for, so I will click on that. Then I will click go. And what you're going to see, sometimes longer than others, is it's going to bring up and show you down here the coefficient of inbreeding. And if we glance at this, you can see obviously this is a 0%. This is a very early on pig. So a 0% inbreeding in her genetics. And again, you can see it breaks down the ancestors, the unique ancestors, and it gives you all of this information on that specific pig. Now, if you want to compare, so let's say that you have two pigs that you're thinking of breeding in your herd. And again, I'm going to type in a number here. And I'm going to use two animals that are in my account to start with. And you can again see it brings you to this drop down menu. You do have to click on this for it to fill that in all the way across. And the same thing is I'm going to use this same sow that we just used a few seconds ago, and we're going to click and put her into there. Now we're going to compare offspring between these two pigs, and again you're going to click go. Okay, when we're looking at this, you can see this brings up a coefficient of inbreeding of 12.5%. That is definitely not an acceptable number for a coefficient of inbreeding. You're going to try and get that number at 5% or less. That is what is recommended by the registry. Now, I put these two in here on purpose so that we could bring this up and you could see what would happen. And again, I would know if these two were in my herd and I was comparing them, that I would definitely not want to breed these two together. Now, I'm going to change the boar here. And again, I'm just going to highlight this and I will just change and put a different boar into here. And you're going to be able to click go. Now you can see that if I have these two breed with each other, their offspring is again going to have a 0% coefficient of inbreeding. This is what we always strive for, is you always want that 0%. Unless you're specifically doing a line breeding, you're going to try and get as close to that 0% as possible. And like I said, anything under 5% is acceptable to the registry. Now, again, this would be two pigs from my herd right now. When you're plugging things in here, though, you can actually plug in a different number for, you can plug in a boar that is related to a different breeder in a different state and compare those if you want to. Then you could determine if you wanted to purchase that boar to put in with your herd and breed to your sows. You're going to find out what that coefficient of inbreeding is for that possible matching. When doing this section, you can plug in any registered pig belonging to any other breeder, or you can actually plug in, and I'm just going to pull up an NR number of a pig. You can see again, this pig is not registered, so it doesn't come out here and have a registration number and name that goes along with it. You just have the NR number, which means non-registered number of that pig. So when I click on this, I can still use these two as a comparison. And again, you could determine if a boar from a different breeder would work with the sow or gilt that you already own. And you can see again, these two breeding would give you a 0% coefficient of inbreeding. So again, this would be a very good matching. Obviously, this is just an example and I'm not going to be breeding these two. But like I said, you can use an NR number from either one of your pigs, or you can use an NR number from any other breeder and then you can plug that in and compare with your gilt or sow, and the same thing works in reverse. So if you have your registered boar and you have his information up here and you want to plug in an NR number from a gilt from a different breeder to compare and see if she'll work with your boar, you can absolutely do that. At the end, like I said, you just click go, and then you will come up and show the coefficient of inbreeding, and you can determine if that's going to be a good match for your herd. Now, one other thing that was just added, which I think is a phenomenal addition, is that you can compare unborn piglets. So I'm going to, again, just plug in some numbers here just so that we can use these for comparison. And if I plug in, and I'm going to use mine again, so I'm going to pull this up, and we'll have this Wendell boar matched up with this maple sow. So if we took a boar from this pairing right here and we bred them, we're going to plug in the father of the possible gilt. And then we'll plug in the mother of the possible gilt. And we're going to again click go. And now when this pulls up, you can see we've got a 2.7344% for the coefficient of inbreeding. So if we're going to pair up two potential piglets and call them a breeding pair, and even if you're doing this from your own herd, you can do this prior to them being born. Even if you don't have that NR number for the piglet yet, you can plug in the information for the parents and come back out here and get that coefficient of inbreeding. So if I was matching these up in my herd, I would feel very confident that this would be a good pairing as far as the coefficient of inbreeding. Now, obviously, you have to factor in conformation, and you have to, put all of that into perspective when you're pairing them up. But on paper, for the coefficient of inbreeding, this would be a good pairing to potentially produce breeding offspring.